Good morning. You know what? I usually have it ready, and I don't because I was just talking to Tyler because he's so endearing, and I lost my place. So stand by. Awesome. It's June 21st. I did know that. Tyler, did you know that it actually, the summer, they call it the summer solstice. It's not the summer equinox. It's the summer solstice. 10:58 a.m. this morning.
Is that right?
Yet the weather still sucks, but that's okay. We can pretend it's going to be summer right before New Hampshire contract starts. We have Tyler Simser with us today. He's from 4 Points. We're going to talk to him about how lucky we are to be in business with him, and 4 Points is lucky to be in business with him, and of course our relationship with 4 Points. We're going to get into all of that. Reminding you, when we escape from here, you've got contracts all morning. And I know, oh my God, it's Wednesday, contracts again. Yeah, this is our job. We practice real estate. Nobody nailed it. If you feel like you went to contract back in 1942 and that was enough, it wasn't. You got to go every week. That's why we do it every week. Nothing on the calendar is busy work. It's all important. Massachusetts with Alice Kabaki at 9 o'clock. This is on Keller TV. And then we have Maine contracts at 10 o'clock. That's on Keller TV. All of these are in Portsmouth today because of the All Partners meeting. So you can roll into the building at any time here in Portsmouth. Mass contracts at 9. Maine at 11, 10, I apologize. New Hampshire at 11. At 9:30, there's an admin mastermind that is in the Shark Tank today and also on the Zooms. And if you're going to that, you've got the link for the Zooms for that. And then at 12 p.m. today, we've got the All Partners meeting. This is our monthly sales meeting. And we don't call it a sales meeting because I just said that, and it sounds like 2 buckets of suck with a side of fries. It's the All Partners meeting to remind you guys that everyone at our company has a chance to be a partner with our owner, which is Nathan Dickey. So the All Partners meeting basically means, and we're not going to get into the weeds on this, with our profit share agreement that we have as a company, everyone can share in the profitability of the company. And one of those things that benefits us is our relationships with our allied resources. So that's why Tyler's here, and we're going to talk more about that in a second. After the All Partners meeting at 2 o'clock, we do have Brinley Tucker. She's on the Zooms, and that link is in the morning news. And also, if you've already registered for that class, it's Command Essentials and the 36 Touch, which is one of our many smart plans. That's with Brinley Tucker from Your Realty Leverage, one of our other allied resources, and that's on the Zooms at 2 p.m. So, Tyler, I ran into J-Cop the other day in the building, and she said that you were around. So I bugged you while you were still away, but we got you this week, which is good. And I'd love for you to just introduce yourself. I think you and I met probably a couple of months ago, and you popped up in, I believe, a 4 Points meeting, and you sat back down. I'm like, who the hell is that kid? So I'm really excited for everybody else to get a chance to know you, to understand your role at 4 Points, and just talk more about 4 Points, the relationship with the Market Center, and how easy it is to work with you guys. So
yeah, thanks. Perfect. Thanks, Tim. Give you a quick intro of who I am and kind of my background. So I think this is a business that's based on relationships, and without people really knowing, who I am and where I come from, it's tough to do that stuff on your first meeting. So I'll kind of give you a blanket intro. And I've been in New England for about 4 years. Right before COVID, my wife and I got married, adopted a dog, and took our honeymoon, and then the world shut down for about a year. So
where did you go before the world shut down?
We went to Belize, and I wish it was during March and I could have stayed, but
you could have got locked in Belize. Yeah, I feel like that could have been pretty awesome.
And then coming up on 3 years in the title industry. So some of you might recognize my face here on the Seacoast. I live right in Exeter, New Hampshire. And something Tim and I have in common is his son is chasing lacrosse as a sport and a career, and through a vehicle to education. And I was fortunate to play lacrosse growing up in upstate New York. And I have 15 years of high school coaching experience. I just finished my first year at Southern New Hampshire men's lacrosse assistant coach. And, jumping to the college level was a goal of mine. And 4 Points was very flexible about my starting time of being up there and being able to, make everything work for this job as well. So I was very fortunate in that. And Jenny has been a colleague of mine for about 2 years, but now that I've been under her wing and under her guidance, it goes back to what Tim was talking about with allied resources. And a couple things stuck out this morning when him and I were talking, and he used the word mastermind, and I think the admin mastermind meeting, and I think there are masterminds of this industry right here in Portsmouth, right? You have amazing leaders and agents in the brokerage, but you also have great resources. So first and foremost, we'll work backwards and talk about Brad Kelly at Movement Mortgage, right? You got any question
Never
you
heard
need?
of him, but by all means, go ahead. Yep.
He's there's a big cutout, and I think they added a couple inches in height.
Which
and
is horrifying that now resides in Kelly's office.
I know.
Yes, and
he's
it's
here
staring
all
out
the
the
time.
window, which is really weird too. So if you drive in and look up at Kelly's window, Bradley's overseeing the gas station and the parking lot, and
If he's golfing or having lunch, he's still here because there's a cardboard cutout of him. So
he's always in the building. I think that's why he did it. It's part of his contractual obligation to the company. Yep.
Yep. So the same thing I say at the new agent orientations is, orientation when you think about college is a good way to get acquainted with those around you and learn from others and take all those resources you have and kind of tweak things your own way. And I think as an agent, you're going to run into agents who are very introvert and don't say boo, but they sell more houses than the average guy. Or you might run into somebody who's very outgoing, like a Michael Whitney, and can show you a different kind of path of how to get from A to B. But what we really want to talk about is the, escrow and settlement side of it and the title insurance. And what we like to say is a title policy provides a peace of mind to a buyer, right? We always say it's the biggest investment of your life and purchasing a home. So as a buyer's agent, you have the right to and kind of the green light to select your title company. And there's going to be title companies that come from all over the seacoast and all over New Hampshire and Maine, and try to kind of, I want to say pitch, but try to use the same verbiage as we do as far as we provide deeds, we, go out of our way for customer service and this and that. But one thing I will say, and I mentioned this on our last meeting, is our processing team, our post-closing team, and the people that work behind closed doors that aren't seen out in the marketing or at the closing table is really second to none and what makes things tick. I ask agents all the time, why are you so loyal other than Jenny Kopp? And the fact that we are your in-house title company, and they say there's no hiccups from the time I send my P&S until the 30-day closing day, right? It starts out with a title search, and you get instant answers. And then we move to about day 10, we'll send you a title report. And then you get any issues that come down about day 15. Then we start to prep for the closing. And if you're working with a seller, we're going to reach out to you and say, okay, 5 more days and tax and fuel proration's due. It gives you a little bit of a window to talk to your sellers. Or you could say, hey, Tyler, I'm in Florida. Can you call my seller? So I've worked with mostly buyer's agents, but when I leave the closing table, sometimes I feel like my relationship with the buyer agent is so good that the selling agent will look at us and go, geez, how'd you guys get to know each other? Oh, she works at Keller, I work at 4 Points, we're neighbors. And that's a relationship we take pride in. So a little bit more about 4 Points. We recently, 2022, were the #1 title company for Keller Williams Coastal based on numbers. Up until this 6 months of the year, we are also #1 in volume for orders sent to a title company. And I think, there's excellent title companies out there that do closings for us and for you guys. And again, we're not really enemies. We're more colleagues because we can learn from each other. A lot of people play musical chairs with these companies and go other places and learn. Listen, at the end of the day, if you don't have an in-house attorney or you don't have a good post-closer or a good processing team, it's really hard to have a successful closing. And the title agent really reflects on you guys, right? So if you're telling a buyer, we love Tyler and we love 4 Points, and I drop the ball, they're going to be like, why? What, other than your relationship off the field, what makes things work with that? So one thing I like to give out new agents, and I can forward this all to Tim and even successful agents, is a little bit of a reminder of a glossary. So anything you see on your exam that you forget about, kind of like high school, are we really going to use algebra in our real life? Probably not.
I used it this morning with my Cheerios. Yeah. I weigh every last one. I'm trying to find my ribcage, kid,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hear you.
Gotta weigh the
there's
Cheerios.
things, there's things that will bore you as far as some words, but some things that you don't use in your everyday, P&S that we could help with, like title commitment or real estate taxes or, escrow, encroachment, deed processing. One thing we do when I sit down at every closing is say, okay, at the end of this, I'm going to take a copy of your IDs. I'm going to give you a copy of the deed and an executed ALTA. If there's anything else you want throughout the process, let me know. If you have any questions, slow me down. But the most important thing, and I'll say it on this call, is agents get paid at the end, right? They want to get paid. I've had title companies where the agent comes, drives an hour and a half thinking I'm going to walk out of here with a nice commission check. And then, oh, well, we're going to overnight it, or we're going to, no, you want to leave there with the confidence that, escrow money or any EMD is out of the way. So you can take a photo with your buyer, put the check in your bag and be on your way. We really go out of our way to make sure that if anything comes up in the meantime, we highlight and make note on our closing sheet that in reality, business is, I don't know how to use it. I guess repeat business happens because of the closing itself, right? I have agents now that I'm comfortable with at Keller that send me business based on a text message. But they know that 45 minutes to an hour that we're there, their buyer is going to get everything answered and they're going to feel really good about moving forward. The communication between the buyer and seller agent really comes from what happens as the title is processed and the closing is going down. So as the package is being printed, there might be times when I have to reach out to your buyer or your seller agent for you, or the town of, Merrimack, or call the Portsmouth Water Department, or you go to do your walkthrough and you need an addendum drafted up the day of because the furnace broke and you're going to give the $500 out of your pocket. Doesn't matter. Our office is 50 yards from, the Keller Williams office where we do majority of our closings. There's not one question that will pop up that Jenny or myself haven't heard. And if so, Cheryl or Susie down in Maryland can help with. So what we have is, a lot of matters and I don't want to say laws, but things that pop up the day of, or sometimes it isn't printed until the day before. So the buyer might go, geez, I thought I already paid for this, or why is this on there? And it's takes a lot of pressure off the agent for the title person to be there with answers and have things highlighted, right? So we can communicate with you and say, hey, make sure your buyer brings the death certificate, or quick reminder, if you've already left your office, I have a copy of X, Y, and Z, so I can bring it there with me. Because like I said, alleviating the pressure of you guys when you're working with buyers and sellers is part of providing a peace of mind in our job, because nothing worse than this answer. I sent you the PNS April 15th. I didn't hear from you until May 30th. Well, as a marketing agent, we have a lot of realtors to cover and a very dense calendar to look at and say, geez, I haven't called Krista yet. I hope she still knows we're on for the 20th, right? That's what's good about having a good team behind you is we're seat on everything. Nothing slips through the cracks, even small things like a deed. If you ask for a deed, Delaney or myself is probably going to reply within 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes within minutes. But like I said, your closing timeline the last thing it should be is nerve-wracking on an agent. It should be confident and smooth so we can continue to work together as a team, because like I said, the community, the culture, the values, but also the camaraderie. Again, I coach college lacrosse. If the locker room isn't smooth and everybody's not getting along, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And to have one person drop the ball is going to reflect on everybody, and then bad news travels fast. They're going to say, I don't want that guy at the closing table. That's the last thing we want. And I know I'm rambling on a little bit, and this is supposed to be a quick start, but I think
don't worry. I'm usually rambling on, so they're thrilled to have somebody else rambling on. Trust me.
and my wife always says I could talk all day, but I think I've had a couple questions recently that I had never had come my way before, and some of them were what the agent thought was a silly question, and even I had to deflect it onto somebody else. So that just proof that we have, a very wide bench as far as, hey, if Cheryl's out, I can call Kristen. If Kristen's out, I can call Amanda. I can call Delaney, and that's just one office, right? We have so much more experienced people in the industry around, and the good news about 4 Points is it's taken off. It's getting super busy. It's like some of the people that have been around since day one say we're at a tipping point now where we're starting to get to the point where being number one at a brokerage is great, but how do we grow from there, right? How do we get to where we are and get to point B? And like I said on our last investor call, is our partners meeting is it's kind of like rowing. If not everyone's not working the same rate and as hard in the same direction, you're going to go off kilter and you're not going to go in a straight line. And in reality, it comes down. We work in a dateline or a timeline based business. So it's not like we're building a house and we can say, "Oh, ballpark, we'll have it done in April." No, this is a business where things need to be done on time, punctual, and you really want to have all your ducks in a row. If you have a closing on the 25th, you really want to be ready to rock and roll today, because sometimes the buyer might say, "Hey, I'm leaving town for a funeral. I need to move in tomorrow."
Yeah.
So being prepared on my end, and the way I see it is our lenders around the area, including Brad, obviously, but they're so knowledgeable and they're so great, and so are the agents. So if I have an opportunity to utilize my resources, I highly recommend as an agent you do the same, whether it's your own people at Keller. If it's a buyer and seller, you can actually learn a lot from the consumer in this industry, because some people flip homes for a living. So they sit down at the closing table 5 times a year. So they're used to it. Some people are first time buyers and never worked with a lender. So you're going to come across all sorts of buyers. They might be coming off of a divorce. They might be coming off a death. They might be moving from out of state. You might have a seller mail away. Each individual transaction is different, but I take pride in treating them all the same, whether it's an agent my first time working with or it's somebody who sends me 5 deals a month. I don't really care. Again, it's back to the coaching thing. I don't care if you're late and you're the best player on the team, you're not going to play. But if you work hard every day and you're showing that you care, chances are we're going to give you a shot. So same thing goes with this industry. I think you're going to find that, again, it's relationship based. So reach out. We're always here. We will go above and beyond. And again, we're not perfect. So if there's something you don't like, don't post it online. If there's something you do like, brag about it.
Yeah, great point. You talked about some of the relationships that the market centers had, and obviously now that you've joined us, people have known Delaney for years. There are almost all of our agents, can't say all, close to all of our agents. I heard somebody say within the last couple of months, I would follow Jenny Kopp through the gates of hell. Like, it doesn't matter where. So we were very fortunate to have, like you said, 4 Points being a new company, but being foundationally strong because of the people, and that's people, a lot of companies like to talk about culture. And it's funny when I'm having a conversation with an agent who's just landed, I don't bring it up because I don't think we need to talk about it, because it's not, I think if you have to, it's almost like from Shakespeare, methinks the lady doth protest too much. If you have to talk about it, maybe you're trying to convince yourself, So we're very lucky to have the relationships that have built 4 Points. And just to educate the masses, is there something, like, as soon as the relationship begins with you guys, is there ever a moment that I should say, I don't want to bother them over there, I'll figure it out? Or does it make more sense to keep you guys on the same page and really, like we've always said, let the agent be the source of the source and go back to you and the crew over there to make sure we get it right?
I would say good question. I would say or myself personally, if I get in a jam or a pinch, I always go to Jenny, right? She's kind of the coach over here, and also a little bit of a player as well because of her knowledge and experience in the industry. What I like about, if it's a really close relationship, I'll reach out to the agent. But what I love about our team here is I'll admit, it's kind of like making yourself look good. You want the answer before you confirm. So you're kind of patting them with confidence, saying, "Hey, by the way, I went and did my homework, but I just want to double check."
Yeah.
It shows the agent that we did do our background research, but also you might not be on the same page. So I never like to assume. I want to come up with the gathered information that I have and then go next door and say, "Hey guys, if I have to run back over there before the closing at 10, I just want to make sure all my ducks are in a row," because there's nothing worse than getting to the closing table and saying, "I don't know."
Yeah.
But I would say the beauty is here we have so many people that I can go to, right? Delaney, Jenny, things of that nature. And if I had to speak with an agent or even someone at Keller, I think everybody works really good together. So the answers are done in a hurry. And also, like I said, they want the closing to go smooth because it does reflect on the agent. So the teamwork over here is great. And I feel really confident about where and who I work with and representing 4 Points, because like you said, Jenny is great. People would follow her to the gates of hell, but I think at the end of the day, she truly cares about our team, and she understands that we have a reputation to uphold, and the last thing we want is to, let agents down. And we take pride in knowing that, like, we're number one for a reason here because we are the in-house title company, but the last thing we want is to see, an agent spreading their business. We don't want to break up any relationships, but at the end of the day, we want to be your go-to person. So when you do ask a question, you don't feel like we're bogged down with questions, right? There's a way to kind of communicate in a sense of, here's your answer, but be prepared for your buyer to come back upset. Or here's your answer, give it to your buyer right away because they're going to be super happy to hear it. So you kind of gauge that buyer and seller, or buyer agent and buyer relationship, just by instilling confidence in, hey, your title's ready, it's cleared, call them. Or close. Good news about your closing, they can do it a day early, or whatever the news is. So.
Yeah, you mentioned, when we talk about Allied Resources quite a bit, the ability, obviously, with our relationships with you and other companies to get paid at the table, and that's a really cool thing that doesn't happen everywhere. But more, you use the language in-house title company, and Brad's our in-house lender, and we don't, as agents, ever want to feel like or actually be steering our clients. But there should be no shame in when you're curating that list. I used to do this with inspection companies. I would put my favorite inspection company at the top. I'd say my clients prefer these three, and they'd be like, well, who do your clients use most? And I'd say, well, this one right here, or I would say 4 Points, or I would say Movement. And I say that unapologetically because my experience with Jenny Kopp when I was selling was flawless. My experience always with Brad Kelly, no matter what cape he's wearing, which is now Movement Mortgage, always phenomenal. And it directly benefits our company through the profitability because we do have a direct interest, with 4 Points as well. So if you haven't had a conversation with Brad Kelly, or you haven't had a conversation to meet Tyler and find out more about what 4 Points can do for your clients, how do they get a hold of you, Tyler? What does that look like? Does that make sense for people to come and have a coffee or bother you at lacrosse practice in the afternoon? I'm just kidding. They won't track you down. Don't worry.
No, that's great. So I can share my info if there's like a chat screen in here.
Perfect.
My email is super easy. It's just tsimser@4title.com. And I'm always available. And part of my, business development or marketing side of the job is to grow relationships. So the closing agent part of my title can be fueled, right? I mean, without the agents at Keller, we don't have any closings. So our relationship
Tell
is
me
huge.
that's right. Is that right? I just put that up.
It's at 4title.com.
4Title. Well, I said put 4 Points. I'm so not good at this. Hang on.
Good.
We'll fix it.
Our relationship with you guys and the success we've seen with the agents is really what fuels us, and vice versa, right? Without the orders coming in, there is no profit. And without the relationship, and you could have the best relationship in the world with an agent, but if you see they're from another brokerage and they keep posting on Facebook that they're using 3 other title companies, that's okay. I'm not out to break up any marriages. Eventually someone's going to move companies, or something's going to slip through the cracks. The other thing is, back to what you said about referrals, it's a funny comparison, but when assistant coaches from other teams call me and they say, hey, we play you guys Saturday, we're having a tailgate, where should I get my food from the tailgate? I'm going to give them 3 resources. The number one pizza place where I go to, the place that's a little less pricey, and then the third guy. So hopefully when they leave on Monday, they text me and say, wow, great choice. The sandwiches were awesome. But it's just like if you move in next door to me and you say, hey, I need a lawn guy. I'm going to give you 2 people. The guy that, pardon my language, sucks, but he's cheaper.
Yeah.
And the guy who's pricier and brings 4 people with him. But at the end of the day, you want to give people options. And I have a lot of family and friends in Colorado, and they're a title state. And one of the successful agents in Vail told me, good luck in the title business because I use 3 people all the time. And I said, okay. She's like, my number one person, my number two person, and then very, very rarely I use my three person. She said, but the good news is you want to be that number one person because
Yeah.
if it's volume based, they're going to be using you all the time. So don't get frustrated if, a buyer slips through the cracks because there's another buyer waiting. And that's how I like to look at it, right? It's not about losses, it's about wins. And the other thing is, there might be an instance where you send a buyer to me and then you have to call me a week later and say, hey, my lender has a preferred title company. Or you guys aren't on their approved list to use. Call me because Steve Lennick can call them and say, hey,
We'd
we
like to
are
be on your preferred list.
one of two things is going to happen. We either will jump on their list if they want to make money,
Yep.
or we are on their list and the lender has his brother-in-law at, let's say,
Yes,
another
ABC
company.
title. Yep.
You might want to dig a little when you hear that because it may be just they had a really bad instance with 4 points, or they don't understand the relationship. So I would say, again, we don't want to steer anybody in any direction, but we want to confidently say at the very beginning of your transaction. Because when we moved to New Hampshire, we bought our home in Exeter. We used a Keller agent, and I didn't know anything about title. And I sat through my closing. I go, man, I'll never do one of those again. And now I jinxed myself. I'm doing it for a living.
Yeah.
4 or 5 a week. So you want to make sure your buyers are informed on the title company they're using, but a lot of them aren't really going to have any questions. They're going to trust you as an agent and say, okay, I'll use whoever you say.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is and then that's when we kind of take the ball and run with it, because sometimes you may not have a lender that you have a relationship with. That's your opportunity to build that relationship, but it's also our opportunity to get comfortable with another lender, because let's be honest, we use Brad all the time, but there's lenders I've never used and they might be a new LO. It's our opportunity to, again, everything reflects back on the agent. If
Yeah.
the lender and the title company aren't doing their job, the last thing we want is upset buyers. We're looking for reviews, we're looking for referrals, and we're looking for repeat business. And the only
Yeah.
way to do is to be consistent.
Yeah. Awesome. Tyler, appreciate your time so much. Are you joining us today for the All Partners over here?
I don't think so. I think, what time is it at? All
Brad's
day,
gonna be
right?
in the room. There's no room for you in the room with Brad in the room, right? Because we have to save space for his.
Well, I'll come when Brad's tea time begins.
We are 12 noon for the All Partners. We're about to head into Massachusetts contracts, then Maine, then New Hampshire. That's all at Keller TV. And then All Partners will be just after 12 o'clock once we get everything set up. That's always on Facebook Live. So,
Well, I
Tyler,
appreciate the invite, and
Yeah.
I'm always around.
yeah,
So
we
hopefully I
appreciate.
get called back. And if anybody has any questions, that's my email. I'm around. I live in Exeter. I'm around the Portsmouth area. But yesterday I went to North Conway, then Bedford. So I'm around the Granite State. I'm up in Maine.
We love it.
Love to sit down, have a cup of coffee, talk about anything work related, but also, I think, like I said, this is relationship based. So first thing I ask an agent, hey, how's your son doing? Or, yeah, your daughter just graduated. I love talking lacrosse with you.
Sure.
And I think the more comfortable agents get with their marketing team, the more they care, right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, reach out, Jenny Kopp, Delaney, anybody you have questions with in our office, we'll be glad to help, and we're always here to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Have a great day.
Thanks, Tim. See you, buddy.
See you, bud.